So everything is running on my end. Looks like recording is in process. All right, for educational purposes only, right? Our disclaimer there. And let me see here. All right, I got your clips queued up, Josh, which will be good. And I think I got. Do we have? Do we have my stuff working? Yeah.
We'll find
Today,
out.
today is our father's birthday. There's our applause, yes. So it's funny, I was just looking at clips today and sharing clips and things like that. And I found a clip with Dad actually wearing this very shirt. The things we've inherited is pretty funny. So I put on a dad shirt today. And Dad enjoyed, he was one of these guys that enjoyed his birthday. We've got great pictures of Dad. We'd order corned beef, from back east and things like that for Dad. It was always about one of the biggest things with Dad celebrating was food. So for those of you guys listening, enjoy something delicious today, as my dad would want you to do that. And the reality is when you're enjoying something delicious, and that joy is good for your health. All right. So if you enjoy a cupcake for Dad today, awesome. Don't eat the whole box of cupcakes. All right. One cupcake is fine. I want a cupcake. Josh, you got any cupcakes?
No,
No? All right. Oh, well. All right, so let's get to business though. Dun, 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 dun. Today, excited. I think we've done webinars on Dad's birthday for the past few years, haven't we?
that's a good question. Probably. We try.
Yeah, it's interesting, guys. As I'm in Mexico, and since living here, the after Halloween is Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, and it's really neat what happens here as far as keeping legacies alive. People not being forgotten. And it's really interesting too because our father is teaching more now than he ever was, and it's neat as people get to listen to the videos. When we do this course, we have so many videos of Dad talking about all this information. You literally get to learn from him. And I think he's thrilled. As we leave this body, we know part of us never dies. Those little microzymas, symbionts, symphotites, whatever you want to call them, never die. So part of us is still here. So Dad's doing a great job. And I think this is fun to celebrate the life that was lived. As people move on, mourning is one thing, but at this point, we're definitely celebrating Dad's experience. This is much more his time than when he was here. He was a little ahead of his time. All right. Josh, any thoughts you want to share on Dad before we get into, I'll show a first clip.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would have been nice if he was here teaching these courses, but luckily, thank God Adam followed him around with a camera after the clinic got shut down and recorded him doing videos for every single chapter in the Holographic Blood book. So that's part of this upcoming course is Dad teaches half the course, which was what makes it so awesome. It's tough that we don't have him here to ask questions to, although I try, and sometimes I do get the questions answered. But certainly his smile was one of the few things I think are infectious is a smile. And Dad's smile was infectious. So I know he's up there smiling. I know he's thrilled. We've done this course now. This is going to be our fourth year. I know some of the students have commented on he comes to them in their dreams and talks to them, which sounds like something Dad would do. And he's always on the move, so he'll come in and say a few things, then off he goes. So we're really thrilled that, a lot of people are getting to know our father who didn't really know him in the past. And we're just doing our best to carry on that work.
Yeah, and with us too, guys, it's interesting because with the work Dad did, he was very solid, very objective about the science that he was working with. We did a webinar with Mom recently talking about when she met Dad, he was so square it was ridiculous. He did a 180 beyond belief. Mom was a crazy person seeing chiropractors. That's weird. And years later, things really changed. And I think that one thing that people really appreciated about him was just his presence, the way he said things, the smile. There was no fake with Dad. And for those of you guys that knew him, yeah, if there was BS around, he'd say it. Oh, that's BS. One of the great statements of Dad is watching him listen to people very intently and then saying, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But he smiled through it. And it's fun because both Josh and I, we both have pictures of Dad right behind us now with an awesome smile on his face, right? Mine's a little harder to see because of my camera, but I'm thrilled. I want to share a clip with you guys real quick. Josh, this clip is called My Movie 11. I don't think we ever shared this clip.
Um, who knows? Now I'm concerned what I actually sent you. This is actually a public
Uh-oh.
webinar right now. We don't generally share some strange things in public, so
No,
now
no,
I'm
no.
curious.
It's for educational purposes only. You guys already signed this one, right? So either way, let's share a clip of Dad. Let's hear what he's got to say. And sharing sound. Let me know that this works well on your side too, Josh. All right. Can you see him okay?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Most disease, especially in the United States, are created by physicians. In the United States, and I'm a surgeon by trade, 95% of surgery is a nightmare. All disease, the body heals by inflammation. It gets ill by suppressed inflammation. When you cut into the body, you are creating an inflammatory reaction that gets locked into the body. There are more surgical interventions in the United States, and it's one of the reasons why we're one of the sicker populations. The intervention of man into the body is an absolute horror show. And it's created so many diseases. Right now, the third leading cause of death in the United States are physicians in hospitals, and that is a fact.
It's kind of interesting because you get to see the little smile right at the very end of that from him, right? He says that with that little smirk, you know. And this is an interesting one, guys. You know, as people take our courses, Dad, in his one book, The Doctor's Manual from the Germs, he talks well about trauma surgeons, about the ER doctors, about paramedics and nurses. You know, with what we do, this is not saying we are against Western medicine. This is not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. All right. What's interesting though is, and Dad would always say that if you're falling apart, they can put you back together without question. Chronic disease, chronic issues are another story. And the more we look into this, the reality is they literally create it. They create chronic diseases. They came up with the term, the definition, you know, the idea that you cannot get better from this and you'll live with it for the rest of your life. And I've said this many times. I remember looking in the encyclopedia as a child. Remember those books that we used to get, right? In the set. And there's that section on chronic, and it has a list of chronic diseases. And our father had worked with all of them, more or less successfully, depending on the person. And I remember saying to him, but this is chronic. You can't, the doctors say you can't cure it. And his response was, that's their truth. In my world, in our truth, there's a different story. And I think, yeah, I might have been 12 or 13 when I saw that. So the reality is chronic disease. And we talked about this in our last course. Towards the end of the course, we had people just throwing out diseases. You know, what is it that you know that people have? Your friends, your family members. And we were able to look at all of these diseases and figure out through the terrain perspective how it made total sense. Josh, is there anything with what Dad did and with you guys working in the clinics that didn't make sense when looking at things through this lens?
Oh, that didn't make sense. No, I mean there's patterns to all illnesses, you know, and you'd have to obviously match it to the individual. But there was generally, you know, the majority of the cases that would come in, and within a few minutes you could really figure it out. And you know, remember when we did that one conference, we gave Dad 8 minutes to read a person's slide, and he had 8 minutes to figure out their life story, and he did it. He was just like this little wind-up toy, you know. So figuring out how people got there isn't the difficult part. You know, trying to figure out the path to going to reversing that and getting them back on the train tracks is a little harder, you know. But generally, you know, generally he says if there's hoof prints, if you feel hoof beats behind you, it's generally not a zebra. You know, it's generally something pretty obvious that's running behind you. So when people came in, you know, he would say 90% of the cases you can figure out in a few minutes. The other 10% he'd go home and think about. But you can generally always track it back to a certain point, and then things go off center from there. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of unknowns, and I think that was one of the great things about the work he did is he took the fear of the unknown out of the client. Because once you figure out how you got to that place in the first place, then you can take steps to taking care of that. But if we're just guessing, you know, if we're, you know, reading a lab test, which tells you absolutely nothing most of the time, and trying to match that up to the individual in front of you, or trying to match a supplement to this leaf on the tree or a pharmaceutical to this leaf on the tree, then you're just guessing. And we're seeing these days the guesses are getting dumber and dumber and dumber from all sides of the spectrum, unfortunately. And it's usually very, very obvious, you know. So Dad would always track it back. Well, we've got the diagnosis in 2010, but they had a really bad breakup in 2009, and then their appendix was removed. So you can see how things started to go downhill from that point in time. So it wasn't brain surgery. He always said it was simple because even I could figure it out, which just means it's pretty simple. But yeah, I very rarely did somebody come in and he couldn't figure it out, and he loved those cases. Because most of our people know Sherlock Holmes was his hero. So if you can't figure out the cause, you're just guessing at trying to fix it. So he would really delve deep into the ones he couldn't figure out until he really figured it out.
Yeah, and it was fun watching him. As a kid, I remember that. I remember him coming home excited. I had a patient that had this, and we did this, and this happened. I don't know how many kids see their father coming home excited about work. The typical thing is no one's enjoying their job. And Dad really would have done this for free if he could have. You
We did
know,
it a lot for free. Yes. He was not a great businessman.
But in the end, the thing is with Dad, it was all about balance. And it's fun for us too. Josh has way more experience with the clinic. He worked side by side with Dad for decades. And I was the music teacher, having a good time and doing my thing. But I've been learning a lot too. We do the consultations, and then I get to talk with the individuals. And it's so interesting how often we can look at a strange atypical diagnosis. And I can go look it up and find out the definition, and I see a key word, right? Raise your hand if you've heard of this homotoxicology chart we've talked about before. All right, a couple
And
people.
that's everybody in our class better raise their hand.
Better raise your hand. Yes. Susan, did your hand go up? I don't know if I saw that. So, the idea, though, of looking at this chart, and Nobel Prizes have been won with work based on this chart. I see something that goes on where the diagnosis says inflammation. Then immediately that gives me a clue. All right. Deposition. You'll see these things right on this chart. And this is a thing that Dad was thrilled about. Dad said he combined what he called three divine philosophies. This is what you learn in our consultations and in this course. Homotoxicology was a big one. Patterns and progressions of disease. All right. So if you can see deposition on a description, a definition of a chronic disease, that's a clue. Degeneration is a clue. Inflammation is a clue. So these are things that people learn in these courses. And it's neat too. Josh has always said, as much as we'd love to do everyone's blood once would be great. Especially if you're not feeling bad. Let's look at what's going on now so you get an idea and you can learn to take care of yourself. But for many people, we can't do the blood. They're in countries we can't get the blood from. Taking courses like this, reading our Father's Holographic Blood book, will give you action items, tools. That book, anybody read the book? Raise your hand. Margaret, you read the book? Yes, nice, awesome. All right, good hands. Yes, awesome. That book is so educational and empowering. And to have a discussion group on that book for 13 weeks, including our father involved, you will learn things in that course that you can utilize that can help you change your health without question. Dad's real goal was to work himself out of a job. If he could teach people and they could take care of themselves and they didn't have to come back to him, that was his goal. All right. And balance, germs not causing disease, taking the fear out of things, important, simple things. All right. How many of you guys just recently learned that germs are not a problem for us? Yeah. All right. Raise your hand. I see there's people there, All right. It's really nice, though, if nothing else, when you can learn to be less afraid of what's going on. The most basic experience, thank you for the hands, guys. There they are. Awesome. The most basic experience of health is sympathetic and parasympathetic. You're either in that rest and recuperate or fight or flight. And when you're afraid, it inhibits circulation and respiration. That does not condone healing. And Dad would say you cannot heal in that state of fear. And look at what's gone over the last 5 years. Do you guys know people that are still afraid of what's gone on? It's amazing the amount of fear that people put out there. I just saw a video, Josh, you'll laugh. 20 hours of nanotechnology in the blood. There is a marathon of fear. Halloween is coming and I will watch horror movies. I love horror movies because they're not real, they're fake. The reality of what people have done is ridiculous. Okay, and I want to show another little clip. We got a few clips we want to show you guys. Um, Fear. What is it that we really need to think about? If we can go through life less afraid, then life is different. The people we've talked to that were so concerned about their disease, Josh, that all it did was consume their life and they couldn't think about anything else. Did that help them?
Mhm.
No, no. So even my friend, I got a friend right now, was diagnosed with lung and brain cancer, right? And he's a young, healthy kind of guy. And my conversation, not that he's ready to hear anything we have to say, is to bring joy to him, all right? To not be afraid. If it's his time, there's a place that we go to, part of us never dies, and, embrace the cycle of it. But the fear is not going to help. So with these two, I have, which one do you think out of the other two, Josh, makes sense with right at this moment? I'm just going to pick one. We're going alphabetically. There we go.
Okay.
This one will talk. This one will do a good one. So fear, when we're in fear and talking about germs, and then what are we having to do? We're having to fight against the system, right? Fight against the doctors, fight against the germs. Not the way we work. All right. So watch this one with Dad here. And this one actually, part of this clip we've never shown, Josh. So this is a little extended.
Only in the course. Only in the course.
Okay, let's go back into history and we go back into concepts of evolution. We're all into, quote, Darwinian evolution. Well, I think Darwin was wrong. There's a lot of evangelical people who agree with me on that point, but only little points that I think he's wrong on. He was right on 80%, but there were 2 points that I think he was greatly wrong. Number one, he said all change takes place by mutation, which is accident or chance. He also said survival of the fittest. That means if I'm stronger than you, I win, I can beat you up, and that game's over. We've developed a concept based on Darwin of an antagonistic concept. We have wars on drugs. We have wars on people. We have wars on cancer. We have an antagonistic society. According to Darwin, it's survival of the fittest. Now, his predecessor, Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, was different. I love Lamarck. Lamarck said everything was parasitic, adaptive, and symbiotic. If a bug eats a plant, the plant's going to die. The plant's going to have to adapt, and they have to become symbiotic. And an evolution on the creation, everything is always going towards a harmony. It's constantly changing. It's constantly adapting towards a harmony. So, the concept of we are changing, we are adapting. Everything in life is adaptive and symbiotic. It's not antagonistic. Big difference.
Yeah, that's important with the work that Dad did. We're not fighting against the body. With Josh and I, Dad was a fighter of sorts. He fought for his country in Vietnam, is what he would say, and then he fought against his country for health freedom. All right. So for Josh and I, watching Dad, oops, there's the video still playing. Let me turn off the volume. Sorry on that one. For Josh and I, we're not here to fight. We're here to share information and work symbiotically. And it's not the easiest thing. Recently we've seen with microscopy images and us sharing things, and there's a lot of ridiculousness going on, and people love the fight. And we're going to do the Aikido thing here, all right, to meet people where that and get out of the way. If they want to fight, they can go fight somewhere else. But even with Dad realizing with cancer, when he was working with his cancer patients, there was that point in time where he realized he was fighting against what the body was trying to do. Then he learned to support it. The reality is the intelligence of this is still beyond our comprehension. As much as we know, the more Josh and I do this, the more we learn, more excited we get, and the more we realize we don't know nothing. We can't just open this up and look inside without changing things. But we've seen patterns for decades that have been awesome. Josh, you want to talk a little bit about that, symbiosis, working with the idea?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's not a new concept. It's a concept that it's not being taught a whole lot these days. But yeah, he always talked about all you can do is support the body and the arrogance of a doctor to think they can cure anything. He says you can't cure anything. You can support the body and allow the body to take care of itself. So it was very simplistic in its approach. And yeah, Adam, you brought that up. The only time he ever said he worked against the body's best wishes was end-stage cancer. Because end-stage cancer, at that point, the body's like, okay, I'm going to start decomposing and we're going to go back into the earth and regenerate new life. So he said that's the only time that he ever worked against the body's wishes. He had to stop that train from going down, and he had to get her back on the tracks and get it going in the right direction. And these days, traditional medicine is all about suppressing the symptom. Unfortunately, you've got this, and here's your anti-this. Even alternative medicine is just as guilty these days. Here's your antiviral, or here's your anti-parasitic. The body's creating parasites and bacteria and fungus for a very specific reason to help. And here we're going to go against that and try to stop that natural process. So you can't work against nature. Nature is always, always going to win. And that's part of what we teach in the course is we teach how nature actually works. And we evolve as nature does, and we're not separate from it. Two of my best friends are naturopaths, and the naturopathic community is a nightmare these days. They call themselves, they said they're recovering naturopaths, where I think they're actually the OG naturopaths. Because the original naturopaths were trained in the pathology of nature. And it seems like a lot these days are not, because here's your anti-parasitic, here's your antibacterial. It's just a green allopath is what we're seeing now. So we really need to understand how nature works before we should be putting our hands on the human body. Even some of the great regenerative farmers say you get land, you don't touch it for a year. You just look at it. You just observe it. Watch the patterns of nature, and then you start to understand things you can do to support the process as opposed to trying to inhibit that process.
Right. And for us too, it's simple. Dad always said this. Dad said, health is simple, people are complicated. And the joke of this is so easy, even Josh gets it, is something that we would say when Dad was around with the lectures. Josh never went to college. What does that mean? These days, it almost means that he's better off because we've seen what happens with people who are schooled. All right. One reason Dad said it was so easy for Josh to understand this is he didn't have to unlearn things. And that's much more difficult than learning. All right. So the idea that the terrain for us, that the body is not separate from nature, that we're a part of it. The body is intelligent and self-correcting. Germs don't cause disease, and health is about balance and flow. And the basics of what we talk about is this. Here's the crash course, all right? The microzymas, the symbionts, these little guys, the somatids in the blood, the microscopic particles of life that help us to create who we are and help us to decompose, all right? They're there. We've seen them many times. They are not nanobots. Ridiculous as we have to laugh, because what else can we do? But these little guys will morph and change and adapt into bacteria and fungus through the process of pleomorphism. All right, pleomorphism is acknowledged. It depends on the terrain, our pHs. And why does this happen? The little guy morphs into the things that we need. All right, if there's blocks in the body, stagnations, symbionts morph through pleomorphism based on the terrain. If the terrain is stagnant, blocks occur, then disease happens. If the river flows, everything is healthy. That tree falls in the river, debris accumulates. Now we start to have issues. Things will deposit. The heavy metals will deposit if there's not the flow in the system. And then what happens? The blocks are either physical, we see that in the blood, energetic, we see that in the blood, or emotional. We see all those in the blood. That was where Dr. Emoto was thrilled about Dad's work, is us seeing how emotions literally are affecting us. And Dad's conclusion with chronic disease was there was a huge emotional component to that. Big. Dad would say 1,000% triggered emotionally. So now you've got different blocks. Stagnation occurs. The microzyma turns into bacteria to help us. Inflammation is part of our homotoxicology chart, the process. Toxin enters, we excrete, that's normal. We sneeze and cough and sweat and vomit and diarrhea, normal, let it happen. If that doesn't get things out, inflammation helps to come in to push things out. It's bacterial. We're creating it within us, all right? Bacterial, that doesn't work, then things are still stagnant, things don't get out, they deposit. Third stage of your homotoxicology chart, deposition. It's fungal in nature. Now we're starting to mold. Josh, you want to talk about what the role of the fungus and the parasites in this whole experience?
Oh, I got to talk about parasites now?
Josh loves it.
Well, first I'll bring it back a little bit to understanding nature and observing nature, and even people using plant medicine, which I believe in. but sometimes having a misunderstanding of how that plant is actually working internally, right? Plant medicine is never ever going to be antibacterial. It's never ever going to be anti-parasitic. Never ever going to be antifungal. It's going to be pro-bacteria. It's going to be pro-fungal. It's going to be pro-parasitic. Okay, if used correctly, it helps to balance out the terrain so the microbiology can balance out. And that's it. So now getting back to Emoto, who scientifically proved that words have power. I've always believed that if the doctor is using an herb and calling it antibacterial, I believe they're actually weakening the energy of that herb before it's even put into the person's body. So we really need to watch our words as well. But plant medicine, it's brilliant. It could be more brilliant. It is more brilliant with the ones who actually understand how nature works, and it works through symbiosis. It does not work antagonistically. All right, that is not the way nature works. So, yeah, so the body creates a very specific bacteria to do a very specific job, and the bacteria, they're brilliant. They're like the body's vacuum cleaner, right? And Dr. Alan Williams, a brilliant regenerative farmer, talked about he'd traveled the world and never ever seen soil that was deficient in nutrients. Not once. Never. The nutrients were always there. What was missing was the microbiology to process the nutrients. The nutrients were bound in the soil. Without the microbiology to process it, they stayed bound in the soil. The soil couldn't utilize it. And the same thing goes on in our bodies. So the bacteria go, they clean up the debris, and their waste product is nutrients for our body. Very, very, very important. Now, if we don't fix the stagnation, then the bacteria start to overproliferate and they become pathogenic, which pathogenic would be one of Dad's Orwellian words, right? Pathogenic just means out of balance. This little bacteria didn't all of a sudden become evil, right? It's doing the same job. What's happening now is there's too many bacteria and their waste product is just being consumed by other bacteria. So the body, the soil, which the soil on the ground is no different than the soil in our body, it can't access those nutrients. So the body then is going to create other helpers. Parasites. One of the greatest creations there is are parasites. They have so many jobs, all right? They clean, they aerate, they tighten up the mucous membranes. But the bacteria start to overproliferate. The parasites come, they consume the bacteria, and then they excrete the nutrients that the bacteria were trying to excrete in the first place. They also consume heavy metals and convert them to organic material. And people in our courses know how annoyed I am with the alternative community doing their parasite cleanses and their candida purges, right? And then claiming the problem is heavy metals. So let's get rid of the one thing that's actually helping to consume your heavy metals, parasites. Candida also loves heavy metals also, consumes them, converts them to organic material. So once again, getting back to understanding how nature works, all right? And parasites in the soil are wonderful for the soil. The same thing in our body. We just want balance.
Well said. It's an interesting thing because Josh and I say this, we used to say this during our presentations. Many things we say are things people have never heard before. Excuse me. At the same time, many things we say are the exact opposite of what people have heard before. And it is interesting because we have people that come to us and they've been on the parasite cleanse for a long time, and now that's actually part of what's affecting their system.
Yeah.
It was neat when we did this event in New York recently. We had Dr. Marzel Arce there. It was awesome. And she was talking about, she's studied history and looked at different indigenous cultures. And there was a river somewhere where they had these fish that were more heavy metals in these fish than anywhere. So they were catching the fish and they noticed there were so many worms in these fish. They were literally coming out of the skin of the worms. And what happened was they removed the worms from the fish and the fish died. And as they studied the fish and the worms, they found that the fish had a high level of heavy metal toxicity, but the worms had more. The worms were pulling the heavy metals out of the fish. They removed the worms from the fish and the fish died. Josh, ever been on a parasite cleanse before?
No, parasites are our friends, and it's we got a lot of unfollows when I posted. If you're in the business of killing parasites, you're not working with the terrain, you're working against the terrain.
Yeah.
And I was actually pretty happy and proud when people started unfollowing us for that.
This is, yes, if you want to hang out with us, you might lose a friend or two. But you'll gain some great friends. We really, as we do this, some of these people that you guys are seeing here, if you're looking at the gallery view, we've known for decades. And they knew Dad. They've been through the treatments. There are people here that were not supposed to be here potentially. All right. And we've got people around the world. If some of you can't talk about this with some of your friends and family members, we understand. And we have a great group of people that you can come hang out with and talk about this stuff with. And we would love nothing more than that. And our courses, they're not big courses. As much as Dad did what he did, and the stuff is out there. If you look for us, you will find us. It's not the easiest thing, though, to come across us. So our courses are small groups, and they're very, very personal discussion experiences that happen. So it's a great, great experience for Josh and I, too. We feel much less alone being able to do these courses. All right. I was going to say another thing, too, and then I want to show another clip of Dad. Have to keep a little bit on track because, Josh and I can talk for hours and days and even for 13 weeks.
Yes.
Right? At the same time, I do want to say that we do have a lot of fun with our discussions and we do talk about some very serious things. For me, I think the cancers, there's nothing more serious than things like this, the things that people are dying from. And even at one point, someone said to us after one of our presentations, you guys need to be a little more serious when you discuss this stuff because this is very serious information. And our response was, no. Part of the issue is people need to be able to look at things in a lighter way. And when Dad was dealing with cancer patients, was he joking around with people, Josh?
Oh yeah.
All the
Oh
time.
yeah. It was the office was always kind of bubbling. There was always something fun going on. Yeah, Dad definitely tried to have fun in the office and incorporate levity. He had all the single patients on Wednesdays, even though they didn't know that. So he was
Yep.
working as a matchmaker. But no, you're dealing with some serious heavy cases, and you need to be able to incorporate levity along with the truth. And it's an art form,
Yeah.
but Adam and I are doing our best to do that as well.
And for practitioners out there, that little laughable moment of he had single people on Wednesdays is kind of neat. When people are coming to clinics and they're concerned, they're confused, there's unknowns, they don't know about their future, and they can sit with someone else who's in the same situation. As Dad looked at blood, there was a few divorces involved after looking at blood because we look at someone's blood, the woman, and you see the husband in the blood because you know how that kind of works sometimes. At the same time, Dad was responsible for some great relationships. All right, so food for thought. If you're a practitioner, Wednesdays can be singles days. I didn't don't say that to anybody though. Just let it be. The other one I was going to say too was the the idea looking at the world through this lens, at life through this lens, and this is all we're really trying to do is give you a little bit of a broader perspective. There's an unknown in the life with regards to health and wellness, and we can look at nature first and literally start to get some clues there. We've really helped to break down that mystery. And like Josh said, Dad's hero was Sherlock Holmes. He loved a good mystery. When people came in with unique diagnoses, it was a neat mystery for him. And he did very well with everything that came through the door. We worked from everything from AIDS to zits, A to Z, right? And ALS was one we didn't see a lot. We didn't have a lot of progress with it because we only saw a few people there. If Dad had had time and the resources, maybe even that too. But for us, I think that watching these people come to Mexico when he had his cancer clinic, afraid, cancer. Remember that the old days when you heard that C word and you're going to die and that was it, right? It's not that way anymore. People know that now, which is great. But they'd come down to that clinic and Dad would even stagger the patients. He'd have them on a 3-week program.
That was the brilliance. Sorry, Adam.
Go
That's
ahead.
if you're new to us, that's we interrupt each other the whole time. Yeah, he would have four-week programs basically, and he would have it staggered. So some people were there in week one, two, three, and four, and he had an IV room, and he was never really into IVs. They only did so much. Sometimes they would help, but they could be supportive sometimes. But he was not an IV person, but he would use the IV room as a way to get people to connect.
Yeah.
So the week one people would come in petrified, but then they'd see the people who were there in week two, three, and four and progression and how happy they were and how excited they were. So a lot of the healing process went on in that IV room and it had zero to do with the actual IVs.
Yeah.
And then he had a chef on staff. And we've got different views on diets, with cancer. He wanted people eating anything they want outside of processed sugar. and the chef would basically cook them whatever they wanted. And he was pretty extravagant. He would fly across the room, with his little antics and stuff. And it was a very interesting clinic, and it was definitely for a clinic that was mostly cancer. It was a pretty happy place to be, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And this is funny. I was just looking at chat and I see the meeting agenda. Did I make a meeting agenda? Hey, interesting. You guys are looking at the meeting agenda. I just noticed that myself. That's pretty funny. Yeah, it was a unique experience. And this is part of a healing process too. If we look at the exact opposite, and we don't blame doctors at all. Anyone, MD, they went into the business to help people and to drive a Porsche and golf on Wednesdays, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the amount of fear, how many horror movies do I love that are taking place in a hospital? That interesting sterile environment, right? And which floor? There's a floor where there's babies, yay, and then there's a floor where there's intensive care. Ugh. It's an intense experience all the way around. And whenever we did our clinics, it was the exact opposite of that. And you wouldn't notice that you went in there and there was cancer patients hanging out. They were laughing, they were having a great time, and it was pretty good for their health. It was part of their healing experience. You guys have seen this with people sick in the hospital, isolated, right? And just that, if you take a plant out of its terrain and you put it under those, fluorescent lights and feed it horrible food, how's the plant going to do? Is it going to wither? Depends on the plant. Our mom ended up in hospital during pandemic for an extended period of time, and she came out, all right, despite what they were doing in there. So a lot to be said for the little bit of community, all right? One or two people that we can actually talk to is like gold, all right? I want to share another clip that Dad had here. And let me see this one. Hold on a second. I think we've shared this one before. Some of them have our little branding on them, which means we've shared them before, and some of them don't. We have a ton of content to share.
Well, and
Josh?
these clips too are just clips. These are clips from larger lectures that we don't release to the public for different reasons. We've had people say this should be shared with everybody, and this needs to be shared with the right people. So we put out clips of the actual lectures. All of these lectures that you're seeing here, the full lectures are in the course.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure the right people are seeing this work, and then, maybe it'll spread a little bit. But the goal is not to get out to everybody. The goal is to get out to the right people.
Right. And really, for you guys that are here, some of you have been on our courses, and we love it. Once you take the course, you get to come back every time we offer it. It's a lifetime experience. At the same time, just type up our last name. There's so much stuff out there with Dad. Watch his Guyam TV interviews. If you're not sure if you want to take this or if you want to do a consultation, watch Dad talk about it. It's one thing to watch Josh and I. Josh was there with Dad side by side. This is the life we have lived. We have lived this life of terrain, really, But when you hear Dad talk about it, he's had those experiences. He was there in Vietnam, he was there in medical school, on front lines, and flipped his whole experience totally around. So watch some of that stuff with him. It's really, there's great stuff out there. And we've got so much to share. The course is fun, yes. All right, let me share this one here and this one. All right.
And the germ theory disease is actually picked up by the system for a reason. In the 1880s, Pasteur comes up with the germ theory disease. His rival, Bechamp, says germs don't cause disease, they live in a disease terrain. The germ theory is picked up because if you have the germ theory disease, you can have the magic bullet philosophy of therapy.
Right.
Now, watch every commercial. You have ADD, you have ED. Erectile dysfunction came out, they started purposely changing into initials. Because you couldn't say ED anymore.
Right.
You couldn't say erectile. So now everything's got an initial.
Yeah.
And if it's got an initial, you now have the drug of choice.
Yes.
And if you watch the TV, they're not allowed to use the word cure. They will always say this drug treats it.
Yes.
They can't use the word cure because since they've never cured a thing in 100 years, if a doctor used the word cure, they will take his license away. I once had charges against me that I brought. I cured a person with an illegal means. The head of the medical board stated, we do not care if your patients are getting better or worse, only if you're doing the work in our way scientifically. Die in our hands, but don't you dare get better in a way we don't know.
kind of interesting to hear that one. I've heard that one many times, and it's for me, this is why Josh and I are enjoying doing what we do the way we do it. We talked to someone recently who said, "You guys should be on Joe Rogan." I'd love to have a conversation with him. No. All right. Dad was on Coast to Coast with, oh, yeah, that's right. Dad was wearing the shirt. Yeah. Hey, that's funny. Yes, he's here with us. Um, Dad was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie a few times, 10 million listeners. And we were overwhelmed with the calls and the emails. Our operation is still very small. It's Josh and I, and Fiona's helping, which is great. And you guys will laugh because one of our best marketers is Mom. Mom shares our posts. If you guys, and as you're listening, if you do come across this stuff, uh, share it would be awesome. For us, part of the reason people say this to us, they say, why isn't everyone doing this? It makes so much sense. The reality is they're just not aware. So this is us doing our best to generate awareness. And this course, as far as I'm concerned, is the course. All right. There are many, many people teaching awesome things out there these days. But I really wish everyone would take this course. Read Dad's Holographic Blood book. It is the awesome foundation that then people can build on. So many people we talk to as they finally come across us, they have questions. It was neat. David Parker and Don Lester, did that research for 10 years on their book and didn't come across us. And it's nothing with them. We were buried. It's not easy to find us. But then they come to us and they've got questions and we've got the answers. It was neat. Meeting Matt Presti was fun. He's a Walter Russell guy and he's very intelligent. And Walter Russell kind of freaks me out a little bit sometimes, a little bit over my head depending on. And it was neat. He didn't know about our work. And after we did the webinar with him, he said, I have a question. I have a theory of cancer. And we said, yes, you're exactly right. Now he can build on that. Some of you guys are practitioners. For you to come and ask the questions. We do not know everything, but we can put heads together and we have resources that are awesome. Barolando comes to our course sometimes and hangs out, and we can ask him different questions. He's great because he's like our dad who had the experiences. So little things like that, for us, the future is bright. I don't come across anything that doesn't make sense anymore as far as health and wellness are concerned. And I enjoy that. It makes my life easier. When I share this with friends and family or people like you that have questions, we can breathe easier knowing that certain things make sense. All right. So I think it's interesting too, because realize no one's perfect. Do Josh and I feel less than awesome sometimes? Yes. Yes, we went to the event and my emotions went straight to my stomach because of planes and visas and logistics and money and here goes my stomach. But if nothing else, we understand it, we appreciate it, and we support the system. All right, we're all a work in progress. I want to show for a minute or two, Josh, a little bit with the platform. You want to talk for another moment about things that we're sharing in this course? Oh, you're muted. There you go. Nice.
Obviously, the best thing we're sharing is Dad. All those lectures that we don't release to the public are in this platform.
Yeah.
Every week you get a video of Dad. So it's pretty straightforward, a lot of the work, which is really nice. But this, although it's based on the Holographic Blood book, the book is not about blood. Okay, the book is really the science behind the terrain. So, people are starting to hear Bechamps' name, more and more these days. And sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing. Lamarck, Enderlein, Wilhelm Reich, we talk a lot about Rudolf Steiner. So these are a lot of these old greats. Um, we're really trying to carry on not only our father's work, but the greats that were before him. Because we see a lot of what's going on these days is a lot of the great works is being misinterpreted, or even in some cases being bastardized, which is really hard to see. What a lot of Waldorf schools are doing now, they're not even teaching Steiner's work because of his views on vaccines,
Yeah.
right? It's a Rudolf Steiner school. You don't get to pick and choose the genius there. Even people like Enderlein, who created a lot of our remedies and is really brilliant with pleomorphism, was a germ theory guy, right? And that's okay. I've said it over and over. Our class is probably sick of hearing it. But Dad always said 80 to 90% of what he said is always going to be true. The other 10 to 20% might change, and let's have a discussion about it, right? The great thinkers have always been wrong, and they've been okay being wrong, as long as it comes to a good conclusion afterwards. All right. So there's no shame in that. And this cancel culture these days where one person says one thing wrong and oh, everything they said was garbage now is ridiculous. So we're really doing our best to keep alive some of these greats and then realize that a lot of these greats, it was a different terrain they were in. The Bechamps, Lamarcks, when they were, doing their thing, diseases were mainly acidic at that point in time. Where now a lot of the diseases are more alkaline, which is the exact opposite of what people are preaching these days, but you learn more about that in the course. So it's a different terrain that we're observing right now, and we need to be able to evolve and adapt and adjust along with that. And that's the brilliance of this course. The discussions are awesome. We give you lots of great content, but the webinars, and hopefully some of our students, or our friends here can attest to that. The webinars are like a happening. There's always different connections being made. We've got people from Australia and Central America and Europe, and they're different terrains. So we're all speaking the same language with a little bit of a different bent on it, getting to the same point. So there's a lot of answers there. As Adam says, we don't have all the answers, but we find in class we can really come to a conclusion that has that solid answer there, which is really nice. So it's really happening, and it's done a lot for me emotionally. That's for sure. I've been pretty honest about the fact that if Adam didn't push me to do this, I would not be doing this. Dad told me never do what he does because he wanted me to enjoy his life. His life was not easy. Although we're born back east in New York, New Jersey, I don't have that thin skin anymore.
Thick
So
skin. You don't have thick skin.
oh yes, I have thinner skin than I used to.
Yeah.
Some people can take that abuse, and I'm not one of those people. So, if it wasn't for Adam pushing me to do this, I wouldn't even be here doing this right now. So thank you, Adam. But, we've always somewhat felt like aliens anyways, and nature does nothing in isolation. So then, for the past couple of years when COVID was going on, we felt even more isolated like aliens. Like I literally felt like I was getting dumber listening to anybody talk about health. And that was both traditional and alternative. I hated to say it.
Yeah.
They were both sharing the same brain. So this course has really helped me a lot physically and emotionally because I've got to see there's people out there who get it. Our students, I don't even know the word student anymore. They're our friends. I love seeing Bonnie's face up there and David's face up there. These are my buddies.
Yeah.
And it's even greater to see them in person. But I know when I'm struggling to grasp something, even though I know the answer, but emotionally I'm kind of down. I can go into the class, I can hit up David or talk to Bonnie. There's always an answer there, and I'm getting support from people I didn't expect. So it's really, really helped me a lot, and I'm definitely grateful for it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, Josh. It is nice, guys. It's not always easy to see what's going on when you're in it, right? So for Josh and I, we can see what's going on with all you guys. That's a piece of cake. But then there's Josh and I are so close to each other, that's not always easy, and it is nice. This is the value of people. When you've got that friend who says, and you stop and go, wow, I didn't think about that. You're right. And we do, Josh and I have those moments in these courses without question. And so do other people. I want to show you guys the platform so you can see how it kind of works a little bit. And know that, Josh and I do as much as we can to meet people where they're at. We're getting out and about more and more, which is nice. We'll be at the Weston Price event this next week in Salt Lake City. Josh will be there, which is awesome. The idea, though, that we can bring people together doing things like this. And these people are around the world. We need 10% for a shift. And without question, we're past the 10%. As we've been divided and conquered, we're regrouping. And just having one person to talk to is a huge experience. So we look forward to these classes. I'm excited. Who's going to show up? It's just like in school, Josh. Who's going to be in class this year? Who's going to sit next to me, I wonder, in class? Yeah. What are they going to bring for lunch? Can I trade them for a cupcake? We never brought cupcakes to lunch because of the health food thing, So let me see here. Let me share this one here for you guys. Okay. Here is our platform. We are using Kajabi at the moment. So basically the idea that you log in and this is your dashboard. All right, we've got stuff in English and Spanish. Very proud to offer this course in Spanish as well, which was not the easiest for us, but we are doing our best to meet people where they're at, and we're thrilled with the Spanish response. Left side, you see intro video, syllabus. If you click intro video, you'll see probably me. You'll see nothing. Oh, here, you'll see video. With any of these videos, you can type in. So lessons that are there, you type in, and then you'll see Josh. The questions go right to Josh. He's answering. All right, there's questions here from our previous season, so you can read those too to see what other people were asking. It's great. You ask a question, and there's someone else there that was going to ask the same question. So we're learning from each other, which is awesome. The documents are here too. So the book. When you take the course, here's that first chapter. So you can read things right here, which is nice. You can put in your comments, your questions. We've got documents. Some of them are in Spanish. So if you want to practice your Spanish, you can do that as well. Then the videos. We have a few videos that some of you may have seen before. Our signature lecture video, me and the European Congress of Integrative Medicine, doing some reinforcement here on this, all right? Then you'll see this is video page 7 to 8. So what you get on this is you get, what do you get? So let me see real quick. Let's just push play and see what you get.
Yeah, the accepted medical system in the United States relies on lies and misspeak, an Orwellian concept, to hand deliberately misleading propaganda to consumers. As you read this book, you will understand that words have specific meanings. For example, what is a side effect? Yeah, Dad was fond of his list of Orwellian misspeak, and that list continues to grow with Adam and I, that's for sure. So, yeah, side effect. When you put something in your body, there's a direct effect that happens. Since it's a bad thing, they call it a side effect. Other things like mutation, which is just random accident, so you just got struck by cancer. Right? No such thing as a mutation. Things all happen for a reason. So it's just a deflection from the truth. You can maybe put the word virus in there these days. Autoimmune is just a fancy name the doctor puts on you when they don't know what's wrong with you, so it must be your fault. Okay, the body's never going to attack itself. It's always striving for homeostasis. So, yeah, Dad was fond of his Orwellian misspeak words, but unfortunately it's becoming truer and truer every day.
So, nice things like this is what you're getting. There's a Josh lesson. If you look too on the side here, here's another section on the next page. We've got, let me see here. Here's week number 2, and look at all these little clips. What you've got here, the lesson videos is one thing. This is where I follow Dad around with the camera. So initially you'll get me outlining the book a little bit, and I'm not gonna push the sound on that. Then you get Dad talking, all right? Let's listen to him for just a moment.
That everything is what's called parasitic, adaptive, and symbiotic, okay? And that's what it is. Everything, the whole planet, everything is going to symbiosis. You know, now that we have wars on this Earth, which drives me crazy, it's breaking up the symbiosis. The planet is just falling apart on that. The symbiosis, we need to be symbiotic with nature, with people, major, major, major key. We're not adapting to that. But that's what everything's about. It's a state of balance. That's what evolution is about. Okay, and that's, you're looking at that. Why we're not symbiotic, why we're not adaptive is really important to figure that out. You know, the Creator put worms out there because they're good. They eat the garbage and they turn that back into what's going on to the basic ground in the area. So parasites really, they eat garbage things and then turn that into things that we use. Very, very, very important. You have worms in the body. We all have worms in the body because it's eating the garbage and trying to convert that. That's the name of the game, okay? The worms are not there to kill us. They're there to help clean us up, and they're working on that survival aspect.
Harumph. You're muted.
Thanks. Got a harumph out of that guy. Thanks, Josh. This is Dad talking, you know, and we have, in this course, you get hours of this. I got the medical conspiracy book, so you hear about what Dad went through, which is great. But really, lesson, 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 Josh talking about this, me talking about this. Here's your homotoxicology charts that we're going to put a whole packet in there on homotoxicology. So an amazing amount of content here in a way that is easy to navigate, and weekly conferences with us, which is fun. All right. I saw what about spirochetes? Someone said something about spirochetes. Uh-oh.
I'm assuming it's sarcasm because, yes, that is a spirochete is something the body creates to help us. And yes, we all have them. It has nothing to do with Lyme disease. So, yeah, spirochete, not a bad thing. None of these things are bad. They're all there to do a specific job, and we all have them.
Right.
And thank God for that.
Yeah, and there's, parasites are one thing. Invasive parasite, we even talk about this. I eat a tapeworm, Josh eats one. If I'm healthy, it comes out the other end. If Josh is not healthy, there's food. It stays there. All right. If you have an over proliferation of things, then things can happen there for sure. But blocks can be identified and removed, and things can change. Those worms are not there to kill us. All
No.
right. I think that's really important to understand. So, with the course, I'll tell you a little bit about this. And then, if there's anyone who's taken one of our courses that wants to just mention for a moment or two their thoughts on it, uh, then that would be awesome. No pressure. But the course is right now, I had shut down the content as we're going to start the course October 23rd. We will meet on Thursdays at 12 p.m. Pacific. Is that right, Josh?
I think it's 11 a.m. Pacific, Adam.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you. Maybe 11 or 12. We'll get you that in the document. Um, each live session is recorded. The Q&A sessions, the first week we'll open up. I'll introduce people to the campus, show them how to navigate, and we open the content. And then the idea is you've got an hour to 2 hours worth of content each week between reading and watching videos. And didn't want to overwhelm people. Some people have jobs and wives and lives and things going on. So ideally, there's a workload that's not overwhelming. But you watch the content, you'll read the chapter, then we'll have a meeting the next week and we'll answer questions. If you cannot make the live sessions, or if you can, either way, you can type your questions in as soon as you've got a question. Type it in if you're watching something. The questions go right to Josh, and he will answer those questions. And then we will discuss it during the live webinar as well. Webinars are recorded, then they're posted. I will translate them with the transcriptions, and you can practice your Spanish if you want. 13 weeks we get to do this. All right. By the end of this, you will get to know our Father without question. There will be reinforcement. You can ask whatever question you want. There are people there that have had consultations, that have their health issues going on. There are practitioners there that have other clients. There are people asking about their family. It's a very educational and empowering experience, to say the least. Once the course is finished at the end of the 13 weeks, we'll do a month later, we'll do a follow-up as people get to digest the material. And we'll do one-on-ones with each new student as well, so we can meet you where you're at and find out what's going on. We invite you to our School of Health webinars. For people that are not able to take the course for one reason or another, Josh and I do 2 webinars a month. Second and fourth Saturday. Second Saturday, we do a guest webinar. We just had the dentist on with dentosophy. Awesome dentistry. Things are happening. Wow. Then a Q&A webinar once a month. Ask whatever questions you want. When you join this course, we will invite you to all of those live webinars so we can continue the conversation. All right. With all this being said, it's lifetime membership. Course is done in 13 weeks. We keep all that content open till the next time we offer it. We shut down the content, we drip it out again, and we've had people that have been here for us. This will be the 4th time. All right. And they're coming back each time, learning more and more. The terrain is changing. There's always more to learn, guys. Dad would be very interested and curious as to these new health issues that are going on. What people are doing to their bodies is crazy. All right. Respect it, support it, and appreciate it. People are creating crazy new health issues. Wow, the diagnoses Josh and I are seeing, they're all making sense. All right. And what we're doing as far as simplifying things for people, people are really living a happier, healthier life with much less to stress on. So, Josh, you want to respond on any of what I just said? And then if anyone's here that wants to share a little bit about having taken the course or been with Dad or something like that, would be awesome. No pressure. Josh, what are you thinking?
It's funny because Adam and I talk people out of doing consultations all the time as we're such great businessmen.
Great business people.
And but we do tell people, I mean, obviously people can get consults, from within the United States. But if you take this course, by the end, you're not going to need the consult. If you're having health issues, you understand why. We don't recommend supplements. So for those of you who don't know us, Adam is obviously the techie in our family, not me. So hopefully he'll be back here pretty soon. But yeah, the course here, it's a lot of information, but it's actually pretty simplistic. So it's generally not overwhelming. We will get into some deep science here and there, but we do it in a way that I can understand it, which is great. Um, the course is for everybody too. It doesn't matter whether you're a practitioner, You just want to understand health. You just want to understand nature because we do bring in farming into the aspect of things too. Um, we don't care whether you're vaccinated or you're not. Everybody is here for a different reason, and we're all here to support each other on their journey. As Adam said, Dad's journey initially, he was a left brain eye surgeon, and that was it. So for him to be able to come into this world, if he could do it, then anybody could do it. Because he had that brain that was very left brain. It was very traditional, but he questioned everything. And it's funny because we were taught to question things, and now it's so infuriating because once people realize they were lied to once, they think everything is a lie, right? And that's not true. There are some truths out there. Now, we talk about our truths and other people's truths, and that could be a different truth, but we do tend to question things, but it's also important to know that not everything we've been taught is wrong. A fair portion of it is, but, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So understanding nature, understanding how we are not part of it. Dad actually said in medical school, he was taught that the human body was exempt from the laws of nature, right? So there's a total lack of respect from most doctors as far as the human body and how it actually works. Just the very notion that they call something autoimmune, like the body is stupid, it's gonna attack itself. As Adam would say, that's dumb, 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 dumb. So a lot of these things that we teach are just common sense, but they haven't been really taught, at least in some time. So a lot of the work is old. We talk about new paradigm time, but all this is old stuff. It's just going back to the ways that worked, but realizing that the terrain a couple hundred years ago when these greats were talking about it is very different than the terrain now. So we need to adapt and adjust to that. So once again, it's a fun course. There's nothing antagonistic about it. We don't have arguments in the course. We have great discussions. Everybody's pretty happy. There's no shaming. There's no such thing as a dumb question in the course. If people do talk about nanotechnology now, we just give them a video to watch because we're tired of talking about that garbage. But other than that, there's really nothing that's off the plate as far as the course goes. So it's a lot of fun. We hope to see you guys there. So I'm going to check on Adam for a second. If one of our,
I'm
yep.
here.
Oh,
Can
you're
you?
there?
Yeah,
Awesome. You went away, Adam.
I know. I know, but you guys can see Dad behind me now, right? You see the cool picture over there? Over here?
I still just see me. I'm gonna remove my pin.
You got to add pin for me if you can, Josh, because then it'll do with recording stuff. Yeah, this is the joys of technology. So either way, hopefully Josh wasn't talking about me too much, saying anything bad. But this, at this point, too, we're just thrilled to be able to share this information. I'm really grateful that Dad left us with this information that we could share with people. I really feel as though when his time had come for him to move on, it was his time. He did what he needed to do here. He left us what we needed to have to move forward. And the real goal is to give this information to you guys, to everybody, so you have this foundation and then see where you take it. One thing that Dad was very excited about was, where is this work going to go? Who's going to take things to another level? And we've seen with the microscopy stuff, well, people are not doing pretty well, and one thing Dad always said was he wasn't sure that he was that good at what he did or that everyone else was that bad. The way
It certainly seems to be a combination of things these days, that's for sure.
the way people are going about things is very different, and many times is backwards, right? Is the total opposite. Just that idea with Dad's the hepatitis experience. Hepatitis is this virus that attacks the liver and creates inflammation. And Dad saw the opposite. Something's going on in the body that's creating inflammation. It's affecting the liver, and they label it as hepatitis. If we can find the block and the inflammation can disappear, then the hepatitis can go away. And there's one chronic disease for you. That's a free one, right? So now that I'm back, was there anyone, Josh, you were keeping an eye on chat and stuff, anyone want to take a moment to say something about our father, about the course? And like I said, no pressure. Some of you have known him for a long time. If you get the Holographic Blood book, Margaret's son's spleen is on the cover. Is that right, Josh? Right. But nice to see you guys here. Really awesome. If anyone wants to share anything, you can raise a hand, physically or not. And Josh will mention who's there. But really, we would love to see more people in this course. We're not looking to see hundreds of people in this course. We want to get to know people, to see their faces and the names, And if you cannot be there in person for the live webinars, you'll still get the webinars. And as long as you're putting in questions, we'll do Zooms with people individually, things like that, so we can meet you guys. And for those of you that got to go, we appreciate you being here, trying to keep it short because we don't want heads to explode and we want to keep you wanting a little more, right? David Barbarisi. And yes, things are recorded. I'll share recording with the people that have registered without question. But David, come on down. I don't have my sound effects.
Yes. So yeah, just to say about the course, I was coming from kind of the like influencer terrain movement, where it was just kind of proving everything wrong. And then this course and you guys have kind of filled in a lot of these gaps of like, oh, this is actual experience. This is like actually what works. And I think maybe one of the big spoilers is just kind of having the priorities, the order of operations of bodies concerned about these things. Whereas for me I would say in the holistic world, there's like, be worried about this and be worried about that. And, like you're trying to change 1,000 things. And you guys get it down to like, do a couple things at one time, see how it goes, and go from there. And so it's just simpler.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate that, David. There's awesome things out there, guys, and sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. Where do we start? And with David, David being in the other course that we've had, and he's been around, he's starting to learn our language. There's simple places to start. As Dad would say, there's a law and order to how nature works. So cool, David, I appreciate that. You guys want to learn some amazing, awesome, empowering stuff that's kind of simple? Yeah. We got the course for you, right? Thanks, David. I appreciate that. We look forward to seeing you in the course, David. Yes, conversations without question. And for those of you that don't know, David's the free hug guy. If you've ever seen those free hug T-shirts that I wear, right? That's David.
That's the first time I met David. He just walked right up and hugged me, and I was like, that was pretty cool.
Yes, you go to Weston Price, right, David? He'll be there, right? He's got enough hugs. So here we go. Yep. Good stuff. Thanks, David, for sharing that one. Definitely. And cool. Is that it? And nobody else at the moment? Okay, cool. Oh, Kara. Kara's got a hand up.
And Margaret's got a hand up too. Yeah.
Oh, and Margaret. Cool. Awesome. Kara. Good to see ya.
Yeah. Well, I took the course last year. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. So I met Harvey when I was like 19 years old. He's pretty much saved my life. So did you guys. And what's interesting is like hearing this, it's like, and I think David mentioned it, it's like every time you guys share, it's like I figure out a different piece of the puzzle. Because when I came to you, I think I was like a colon hydrotherapist, and I was, doing all these different types of, I was one of those putting people on all these different protocols. And when I learned how simple it is to work with you guys and how all of these things were actually causing my nervous system to be very, very hyperactive and overstimulated, just receiving the information on how to relax and how to like what the body needs specifically is what you'll get from this course. Because you guys are so, like, you can tell you're in your spine and you can tell you're coming from the earth and you can feel it. And most practitioners that you work with, like, it's sympathetic. It's just too overwhelming and too much. And I think people are ready to just, and I like that you say you don't really need to look at the blood, like just take this course. And just thank you. I'm getting stuff now that I just didn't understand, even though I've known you guys for decades and I've lived it, but I'm really getting like, it's pretty simple. Just listen to Harvey, listen to you guys, and you'll understand how the body works and what you need to just do on your own. And then if you have any questions, you guys have had decades of experience of dealing with very chronic situations, as have I. And there's a simple way to do it and there's a complicated way to do it. And simple.
No, I'm having problems with my mute and unmute. Yeah, awesome, Kara. I appreciate that. And yeah, Kara's known us for a long time. And as we say it's simple, and you hear Kara saying she's still getting more, we keep reinforcing things, and there's always things to observe. And it's nice, Kara, as a practitioner, we've simplified that for her as well. So many practitioners are looking for new things with their people. And the reality is, you don't need a ton. We need people like you, Kara, which is great. Josh and I look at blood, and we talk about the Daniel Allen, the osteopath, and Steve Davidson, and these people, and the Chinese medicine people, our sister who does that, and the people that work with the emotions and that type, Margaret, who does things like that. So we'll help you find resources, and then you're developing a stronger community. Thanks, Kara. I appreciate that. We look forward to seeing you in our courses. You come in for discussions, yes?
Yes.
Yes, heck yes. All right, cool. So you want to come out with us, hang out with us, David and Kara, right? You know where we're going to be. Cool, thanks, Kara. Margaret, did you want to say something?
Oh, I just want
Yes.
to say happy birthday to your dad. Just seeing him here is just so touching. Anyway, and to see you too. So I think I'll join you. And it's like I miss not being with your dad and connecting with you guys too, but I love where you're taking this, and I love all, like Cara said, all the added insights that continue to come. So it'll be real fun. I thoroughly, just for everybody else, I would send Dr. B patients for years, and he would work with them. And it was just always so wonderful to see the healing that actually happens. And me and my son is on the book. I just one little thought on that. When my son was hospitalized in ICU with trauma from a snowboard accident, and the blood counts were up, but it was like Harvey was just, the brilliance of what he knew, but go get him injected here and he'll be fine. And it was like, oh my gosh, he was better. Everything shifted. We watched it 2 days, 5 days, all back to normal. These kinds of things were amazing to watch. So I love that you guys are keeping this alive.
Good. Thanks. Thank you, Margaret. It's really nice too, guys, because Margaret has sent people to us, and even some of those people, Margaret, have come to our courses and are learning and now are becoming practitioners, right? It's really neat. I get chills with some of this. And yes, and happy birthday to Dad. Look, at this point, Dad's enjoying this. He's thrilled that you're here, Margaret. And yes, come, please. I get chills again. Join our conversations. To have
That's
you
what will
there,
be fun, right? To just
yeah.
connect back with you guys again. So
Yeah, and having you there will be awesome. Allison, who's right next to you on my screen, which is funny, young nurse, is going to have some things that she's going to bring to the table. And Margaret, I got a feeling you're going to have some things to say about that too. So we'll look forward to having you in the discussion. Yay. Hanging out with you again. It's going to be fun, right?
And it's nice, we're making new friends, we're seeing old friends, and for Dad, his ride was lonely. He had us, and it was, and Adam and I have felt that way. My sister feels that way a lot too. So for this course, for us to connect with new people and then some old people, I can count on one hand the amount of people who came out of the woodwork to help Dad over his career. It usually went the other way. And Margaret's brother Rudy was one of the greats. Now I'm gonna cry a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, my brother passed away 2 years ago. Yeah, year and a half ago. So
He was always there. We needed help. Rudy was there. Hell, he helped us move houses 3 times, I think. His parents lost their house. Rudy's there to help move them for you. So, as much as we're celebrating my dad right now, Rudy's right up there too with him, and he was always helping out. So we miss him as well.
Yes, and I think, Margaret, there's a part of me that thinks he earned his way out of here. Even with Dad. You guys remember that song, Only the Good Die Young? That kind of sucks because, we're friends with these people, but when you earn your way out, yeah, I always hated that song. When you earn your way out, you earn your way, and yeah, Rudy he was a guy. He was a guy and a half, definitely. All right, guys, so this has been awesome. It's almost taco time for me. Yay. So if you want to support Dad and honor his legacy, taking our course is one thing, reading his book is another thing. Enjoy your day. All right, if you want to honor him, enjoy your day. Enjoy 10 minutes, just even that. Go get a good meal and just enjoy it and say, here's to you, Harvey. I'm going to do that. All right. And with this one, if you guys, ideally, you may have friends you want to share this stuff with. I will send out the recording to people that have registered. So awesome. You can try to make people register because we capture emails, which is great. Or you can share the link with them too. We're looking forward to getting this stuff out there. Josh, I don't think we said anything that gets us in trouble this time, right? Educational purposes
That's
only.
great because nobody can get a hold of me, so I'll say something inflammatory, and they get a hold of Adam and yell at him.
Yeah.
So that tends to work out pretty well for me. But hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Well, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, we've also got the School of Health.
Yeah.
So for people who can't afford the course or just it's not ready for it yet, there are payment plans that are available too. Not that we advertise it.
Ooh.
We've got the School of Health, which is $27 a month, and we do 2 live webinars a month. So one is an interview and one's a Q&A, both really interactive. So we've interviewed, acupuncturists, farmers, MDs, dentists, all sorts of people. It's a lot of fun. So that's another way you can connect with us as well. This course here too, it's important to know it's not a microscope course. We do have a very basic blood basics microscope course that people can take, but that's only after they've completed one of our courses and we get to know them. So we're only going to teach people the microscope who understand the philosophy and who we actually get to know, because we've seen in the world of microscopy these days how stupid and embarrassing it is right now. So part of what we're doing is trying to protect the integrity of my father's work. And I'd rather not teach it to some people and have other people carrying it on. So we do a basics, blood course, but that's only after you've taken one of our courses and we get to know you. And then you have to be accepted into the microscope course as well. So, and then it's just a matter of us understanding who we're teaching, because with a little bit of knowledge, we can do great things, or people can do some ridiculous things as well.
We can scare people into unnecessary treatments, right?
Absolutely. We will talk about the microscope a little bit, but it's not a microscope course.
Yes, definitely. And real quick, Lindsay, you got a hand up? You got a comment real quick? Yeah? Oh, you're muted though. Oh, there you go. Wait, I muted you as soon as you unmuted. Sorry. Try that again. Oh, no, you're still...
Yeah.
There you go.
Haven't done as much Zoom as I should have done by now. Sorry to extend it. I know you're trying to wrap it up, but love all of your work. Have listened to almost all of your podcasts. My dad passed away about 5 years ago, and he would have loved your dad. Very similar, very curious, but very fearful, like worried about health. That's opposite from your dad in that way. And I just wanted to say, I'll go back and listen to your dad, because in all my searching to understand health, it's so beautiful, the simplicity that your dad will sum things up, or that both of you guys do with the same energy, and the potent like salve or cure that is in itself. You can just feel it. And it's like, oh, it's okay if we don't even understand all the details yet. That's just fun, kind of. Because once you hear the truth, you can feel the resonance of the truth of when your dad speaks in those simple phrases. It's like, oh my gosh, it's that simply beautiful. Of course, right? So that message, I just love to think about the power of how many people you're healing by just flipping the fear, just gently turning that. And I was telling my nephew, like, don't scrub your hands so hard. He's afraid of germs. I'm like, just even kids who are so afraid. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Lindsay. Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate that. And I think you're right. There are people that just listen to Dad. Just reading that book can change their lives. Watching videos of Dad, he had the experience. And it's nice to hear that from you, that you're feeling that from Josh and I. We don't hide who we are. There's nothing, if you meet us in person, this is exactly who we are. And simple helps. Definitely.
It's brilliant. God wouldn't have made it like so complex that it would be happening whether we understand it or not. Right?
Right. Yes.
And so it's just beautiful. I feel like you guys opened the door to that, like, oh, wow. So thank you.
Good. I'm glad. You're welcome. Thanks for that too. Definitely. Josh and I, we don't get to talk about this as much as you would expect. you know, the webinars is one thing, but we don't always talk about with our friends and extended family and stuff. So awesome stuff. Thank you for listening, for hearing, and watch more stuff from Dad, guys. Share that stuff with people you think it'll resonate with. And if they're not interested, don't take it personally. You know, love everyone for who they are. You can always talk about the weather and the football game with somebody and enjoy that. So with all that being said, I think it's about that time. I look forward to hanging out with you guys, some of you, a little more in the upcoming weeks. And like we said, if nothing else, the course is one thing, the School of Health is another thing. Online, I just posted the link for the course, Bigelsen Academy, you can find it. And I forgot to do this. I'm going to put this in. Since it's Dad's birthday, we're doing the quick sale for you guys. If you put in Harvey 100, capital letters, we'll give you $100 off the course. We are not the best at marketing and business that way, but we really love sharing this information, educating and empowering people. And if we can get you guys to come join us, I do not think that you'll be sorry about it. I really think you'll enjoy it. You'll find action items in your life. Are you ready for the change? Are you ready to be happy and healthy? Because if not, well, this might not be the course for you. All right. All right, you guys, really, really awesome. Thank you so much. We will post and send that video as quick as I can. You got the rest of the day to celebrate the awesomeness of who we are, all right, of Dad reminding you that we're connected with nature. Get your joy, people, and when you're eating something today, if you're eating a cupcake, eat it with joy. That joy is so beneficial to your health. Do not eat the whole box of cupcakes, like I said, right? Share your joy with others. If you get a box, there's someone else out there that wants a cupcake. And that to me is one of my most favorite things, just random acts of kindness. Just go share joy with people. There's so much confusion and fear in the world right now. No judgments. Let's just enjoy our days. All right. And with that being said, Josh, you want to send them off with something wonderful?
I think you all pretty much said it. I think you definitely said it. Yeah, I'm just happy people are here. I look forward to seeing some new faces and some old faces in the class. And it's a lot of fun, and we hope to see you there.
Yes, awesome. For those of you that were a little late, Brenda, I didn't see you there. Awesome. And Allison, great. Yay. Chris Holman, I see you there too, which is nice. It's really nice to see people. Kara, it was awesome to see you here as well. Oh, Clive Wilson, I see you on that horn with the picture there. Awesome. Matt, we'll see you in class soon too as well, right? Really good stuff, guys. So yes, as much as I want to hang out with you all day, it's time to get on and enjoy the rest of it. All right. So thank you again for coming, guys. Hasta luego. Ideally, we'll see you soon. See ya. Happy birthday, Dad, right?
Happy birthday, Harvey.
What was his favorite birthday song? People dying everywhere, people crying everywhere, but happy birthday. All right. Enjoy your day, guys. Hasta luego.